It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
No fear, no fear, no fear. We'll get you put in jail if the NSA has anything to do with it. Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. We have as our special guest Kathleen McLellan. She holds a JD from the University of Wisconsin Law School and a BA in History and Political Science from St. Mary's College, Maryland. Prior to joining GAP, which is Government Accountability Project. Prior to that, she worked in the American Civil Liberties Union's Washington Legislative Office on a broad range of civil rights, civil liberties, national security issues, including employment discrimination, secrecy, surveillance, and whistleblower issues. She is admitted to practice law in Maryland and Wisconsin. Welcome to the show, Kathleen McLellan.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
This is what we're going to do today. We have been following this for years. Since 2003. I mean, I've been on the air doing, when it started coming out with Russell Tice from the NSA. We've had him on the show and talked about, things that him telling people things that the NSA didn't want people to know about. So I know where this goes, but Drake is a little bit different situation. There's a gentleman named Thomas Drake that had been in the military, I think. He worked for the CIA as an analyst, I think it was, and he went as a private contractor. And, tell us a little bit about him and why he was motivated to come out and share information that the NSA did not want shared.
Well, Thomas Drake, as you said, had a long history of government service. He was a public servant his entire career and finally ended up rising to the level of a senior executive at the National Security Agency. And he was brought in to help with their change and modernization effort starting in the late 1990s, early 2000s. And his first day on the job at NSA was actually 9/11. And what
you mean the day of 9/11, he walks in, boom?
Yeah, essentially. He walked in the first day on 9/11. And then what he witnessed there was incredibly, incredibly sad. And he witnessed NSA tossing, 3 decades worth of law that basically said you couldn't spy on Americans without a warrant. That's, of course, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, and that was drilled into him during his career in the military when he was working on espionage, on data collection, and it was drilled into the military officers that collecting Americans' information was not permitted without a warrant, and NSA essentially threw that out the window. And I think Mr. Drake explains in a recent New Yorker article by Jane Mayer that it wasn't just like the brakes came off after 9/11. We were in a whole different vehicle. He also witnessed massive waste to the tune of $1.2 billion taxpayer dollars. That's what's been acknowledged publicly anyway.
Okay. And this is what I want to get to is here is a gentleman that came to the attention of important people, and so therefore he's living in interesting times, and he wanted to accomplish what by sharing what with whom?
Well, I think, Mr. Drake had pretty salutary motives in sharing with the Department of Defense Inspector General and members of Congress the massive taxpayer waste and illegality that he witnessed. he wanted it stopped, and nothing happened when he shared with that. And he also shared unclassified, and that's important to note, unclassified concerns with a reporter from the Baltimore Sun. And the Baltimore Sun wrote a series of award-winning articles that exposed some of the massive financial waste and mismanagement at the NSA.
All right, and he cares because why? I mean, he has to have. I tell you what's going to happen. It's going to go before a judge or a jury. I'm not sure what they prefer.
It'll be a jury, I think.
So he goes to a jury and he says, "I did this because it needed to be done because," and the judge is going to say, "Yeah, what does the law say?" And you can't, and you don't get to judge the law. You just do whether he broke it or not, and blah blah. In the end, he's in jail. And I'm just wondering, his defense is going to be what? He's like, this had to come out, whatever this is. Why? Now, obviously, it was enough to anger them that they're coming after him. But what was it that angered him so much?
Well, I mean, I think you have to look at the broad range of things that he blew the whistle on, and I think the biggest things were the waste of $1.2 billion and some illegal domestic spying. But, I think it's important to look at what he's actually charged with, as opposed to whether or not, he broke the law, because he's charged with, illegal retention of classified information. So he's not actually charged with disclosing anything to anybody. In fact, he went through proper channels to disclose the wasteful money to the Inspector General's office. And I think, what Mr. Drake said in the New Yorker was that this went against, what he was seeing at NSA went against everything he knew to be an American. And so what he did is he went through the proper channels to Congress, to the Inspector General, and was a material witness for a years-long Inspector General investigation to make sure that that the NSA would be more responsible with Americans' taxpayer money and that they would obey the law.
Okay. Now, we've gone through this with Sibel Emmons, Russell Tice. We've had even Ray McGovern, been heavy on what he knew and who did what. So now I'm looking at this gentleman and I'm going, okay, the information that came out, we benefited from it by learning what? Why were they so angry? That they're corrupt and that they waste money? And of course, Tice was going on, hey man, they're farming everybody's data. Then just at the end of the last hour, we're playing the Onion News Network spoof on Mark Zuckerberg being a CIA agent, and Facebook is collecting all the information anyway. Now, I mean, not that I certainly agree with the gentleman that we need to highlight waste and fraud and them breaking the law, but I'm wondering the benefit that comes out of this at the end of this case and your advocacy for him and being his attorney. You're hoping that what comes out of it, he's found not guilty or something is fixed.
Well, I think, I think there's two things. And first and foremost is that Tom Drake ideally the prosecution would drop the ridiculous case against him. And I think it's important not just for him personally and not just for him being a patriotic, American being prosecuted under the Espionage Act, but it's more important because of the implications a conviction could have. If he's convicted, Mort Halpern, who is the Open Society Institute expert on national security, said that it means that the Espionage Act could be an official secrets act, meaning that anybody who divulges something that the government doesn't like could be convicted under the Espionage Act, and that could include journalists, it could include reporters, and it could include advocates. And that, precedent is very, very dangerous and sends a very chilling message to all prospective whistleblowers and anybody else who's going to favor government transparency.
Okay, now this is my point. You just helped make my point. That's why they're doing it. I mean, hello. I mean, you know this, right?
Of course.
Okay, so I mean, we hope that they'll come to their senses and not try and squash all people going out and saying what's wrong with. I'm going, that's why they did it. They want to scare everybody. Oh, heck no, you don't want to do this. You better be doing a Bradley Manning thing and be more secret about it, not stupid. So it's just they're begging people, instead of going through channels, instead of being open about it, for them to be clandestine about it or have to. I so see where this is going, and we need to know what we can do to help beat back the boots of the government. Because it's a left jackboot, it's a right jackboot, the jackboot on your throat party, and here they come. We'll talk about more when we come back on Declare Your Independence. You'll be right there.